So the disciples sat behind a closed door. Out of fear, they hid and locked the door. Jesus' friends are paralyzed. They had been witnesses of a brutal murder. They were witnesses when their friend was a victim of violence. Some of them had witnessed the hammering, seen the spear, heard his last words, and witnessed his death. And worst of all, they couldn't help him with the best intentions. It was impossible to save him. They were forced to look on helplessly and experience firsthand what it means to stand by while someone is being tortured. It was a traumatic and terrifying experience. And unfortunately, this is no exception here in the United States of America. Many of us have had, or at least heard about, similar traumatic experience. Just think about what we hear on the local news. Or even some of us might be able to think back when he or she has witnessed a crime in the past. Sometimes as a witness, paralyzed by fear, or as a victim exposed to the violence yourself. I am thinking about hunger, poverty, oppression, any kind of homelessness, robbery, beating, stabbing, shooting. This senseless violence that can victimize anyone, anytime, anywhere. And after witnessing such violence against Jesus, the disciples go into hiding. They sit together behind a closed door, shut up out of fear. Locking the door describes the way many fellow citizens react. We withdraw into our little private world. We do not know how to solve the great problem of violence and powerlessness. We live together as a family or with friends behind closed doors, for fear of others who might endanger us, ourselves, or our homes. Houses and streets have these high walls, electric fences, and barriers blocking entire streets. These protective grills screwed in front of the windows and doors. We all carry incredible amount of keys around, and we have to memorize some security numbers to enter certain buildings, including this building, the church. And we also have contacts with security companies so that in case of an emergency, a heavily armed guy will come and save us. Fear is not only changing the appearance of our streets, neighborhoods, and houses, but fear also changes many of us inside, internally. Some people have a door in their heart firmly shut. The terrible experiences of being helplessly at the mercy of violence changes people. Fear spreads and determines behavior of many people. Yes, it is quite easy for most of us to put ourselves in the position of the hidden disciples and understand how they probably felt after seeing Jesus suffer on the cross. It is as if something had died in the disciples too. Their hope, their trust, maybe even a little piece of their future. But John tells how this locked door is opened, and the frightened friends are relieved of their fear. The encounter with the risen Lord gives them new meaning and new hope. And in this respect, I'm inviting you to think about this story as a healing story. Jesus heals the troubled spirit of the disciples, lifts them up, and empowers them to come out of their hiding. Jesus blesses them with a new spirit, breathes new life into them, and challenges them with a new task. Victims are healed. They are no longer powerless, fearful witnesses, but empowered to reshape their worlds. They are empowered to rearrange their lives and forgive those who have tormented them. It would be a wonderful experience if the risen one met us today as well. How nice would it be if the locked doors of our hearts would be opened? We would be freed from our paralyzing fear and would experience the healing power of God, allowing us to open up and live in spite of fear. We would open up and venture out again and continue realizing the dream of the colorful rainbow nation where people live peacefully together. It is worth examining the story more closely to see how, despite the closed doors, Jesus finds access to his friends. He neither knocks nor bangs on the door or invites his friends to open the door for him. He doesn't force the door to open. It seems that he comes quietly, almost unnoticed. Jesus' re-entry into the lives of the disciples, despite the closed door, is an encouraging illustration of what we believe of grace. Believing many of us have experienced grace. In the midst of grief, we could breathe again. Although we have been disappointed, we have not become bitter. In danger, a spirit of calm kept us from panicking. Even though people hurt us, we are able to trust them again later. So we have experienced what we believe. God sets us out to dwell among us and to make peace. God lives in relationship, searches for us, and reaches out to us. God opens doors and creates untold opportunities to deal with suffering. After reappearing so silently, Jesus greets his companions with the usual greeting. You know it. Peace be with you. These words have power. It happens what he says. Peace arises. His words create a new reality. It doesn't matter that the disciples have heard these words so many times. They remain true. They open up for a new life here. This is how many of us feel with the liturgy, I hope. Be it only for a brief moment in which we experience this grace, the grace of being surrounded by peace amidst fear, the grace to breathe a sigh of relief in the midst of suffering. And if the disciples may not yet know who has entered their lives when they hear the words, "Peace be with you," their fear is already fading. Only then they do recognize Jesus. Even Jesus looks different. He is changed. He has a new life, but they recognize him by his wounds. The fresh scars in his open hands say more than 1,000 words could. The The wounds speak for Jesus. Here I am. The traces of my painful experiences are still visible. Yes, I am crucified, but I am alive. I'm not doomed to stay in the grave. The locked tomb is open, the stone rolled away. I have risen and ventured out. A new life has begun. And at that moment, when Jesus opens the locked door, and for the disciples, the door to life becomes wide open, the disciples breathe a sigh of relief. And you can do it too. Because you are not doomed to hide forever in retreat, in fear. You are blessed. You are free to get up and venture out. A new life has begun. Jesus shows them his wounds of suffering. These wounds from the past remain part of his new life. Although Jesus looks different, but he's still the same. Old experiences remain part of the new life. Many of us would ask for such healing. Jesus bears his wounds proudly and with dignity. Stepping through the locked door into their midst, he is no longer tormented, helpless victim, the one conquered by death, but he enters as the victor. He is the conqueror, the new man, animated with a new spirit that allows him a new life. Jesus appears to his friends and enables them to have a similar experience. They don't remain the traumatized, frightened victims who close themselves off to life. They will become new people, blessed with a new purpose, enabling life, witnessing hope, and freeing people from their traumatic experiences. This is one of the wonderful experiences we have through faith. We are no longer victims. We become overcomers. We are not crushed to let the fear and suffering of the past dictate our lives, but we are empowered to overcome and live anew. Amen.